you. So TTF is an organization that focuses on improving our watershed. We connect people to their creeks, and we do that through education, stewardship, restoration, and advocacy. And we work with a lot of wonderful partners across our very impaired 30 square mile urban watershed to get good projects done and to celebrate our water, nature, and our communities. This special project, People of the Park, is part of a project, a master plan project for Tacony Creek Park. One of our focuses in Philadelphia is Tacony Creek Park, which is the creek and the park that is left of that creek system. We filled in and covered up all the little creeks, all the little tributaries in Philadelphia, and what's left is our watershed parks around creeks. So this is for Philadelphia, this is the neighborhoods around it. This is a really special green space that has been neglected over the years, but is very important to people. It's a watershed park that is 150 acres and contains a trail that's a 3.2 mile circuit trail that even connects under Roosevelt Boulevard. And we provide programming and improvements. We sponsor a friends group, and we're all about making the park the special place that it is and working with neighbors to support their efforts and to really showcase how special this place is. So this People of the Park project was one of two pilot projects as part of our master planning process. And we'll talk about we'll thank the funders later on. Actually, I think we can pull up the slide real quickly with those. But this project was funded, and one of the special things we want to do is master plans take a long time. So what we wanted to do is make sure that wonderful things happen during that process, so people would stay connected and not get disillusioned and frustrated. So there are funders. You can read those all. We really appreciate their work. And these special pilot projects were specifically funded by the Penn Foundation to really support community engagement during the master plan process. And this project has really been, I am not quite sure what kind of expectations we had. We knew we had an idea, a concept that was very vague. And this creative team really took this to an amazing, amazing level. And we're really excited to share that with you tonight. So what I'd like to do is introduce Ambrose Liu of the Olney Culture Lab. We have had the honor of working with Ambrose on a bunch of different projects. And it is our favorite partnership. We are not artists, but we appreciate how important art and culture are to connecting with people and to people's lives. And Ambrose has brought incredible teams to work with us on a bunch of different projects, which we all thought were really phenomenal. And we didn't think it was possible to sort of top the photo projects that we've done, the oral history projects, the concert series, but this has really been an incredible success, and we can't wait to keep going with it. So I'm just going to pass this on to Ambrose, and he will begin the conversation with the creative team.
Thank you, Julie. Good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Ambrose Liu. I'm the project director for the Olney Culture Lab. And as Julie indicated, we've been partnering with TTF now for probably a good 5 years. Started very small, but then it's grown a great deal over the last 5 years in terms of the types of projects that we've collaborated on with each other. Just to give you a little bit about Olney Culture Lab, for those who might not know us, we've officially been in existence since 2014, the beginning of 2014, and but the seeds of our organization had existed since 2010. And what we do is we like to celebrate the diverse cultural assets and expressions of the Olney neighborhood, which is considered one of the most linguistically diverse in the state of Pennsylvania. And given the different parts of the world that many of the residents come from, given the unique public spaces that exist in Olney, including Tacony Creek Park, Fisher Park, the business corridor, etc. We have found great inspiration in bringing any manner of cultural expression. We're sort of non-denominational in that respect. We present dance festivals and jazz concerts, and we do food tours. But then over the years, we've also become a trusted community engagement partner with the Olney Rec Center, with Lowell Elementary School, and definitely with TTF in terms of bringing arts and cultural strategies to help highlight and raise the awareness of the work that our partners are doing. And so we're really excited by this project because for us, it's a real milestone, not only in our relationship with TTF, but for us, it's our first foray, I would say, into creating something that has some level of permanence. We, like I said, have been more involved in producing more ephemeral events that happen in an afternoon, and then you leave feeling happy, and your belly is full, or what have you. But for this, to take on a project like this, thankfully, myself and my colleague and co-conspirator, Varissa McMickens Blair, who we'll hear from as well. She and we were able to recruit, an amazing team of artists that both of us have known for varying degrees of time, but long enough to know that we were pulling together a really amazing team. And for us, this project not only was a chance to create something of permanence, but also to try out a few new things for ourselves, while we have been, as an organization, working diligently to showcase the multitude of expressions in the community. One thing we've identified for ourselves for the last few years is like, all right, trying to reach the English second language community as a second language community, of which there are many of those in Olney. So to have the chance to work on a project where we, in essence, we were piloting a pilot for ourselves. One of the signs features an amazing resident who we interviewed in Spanish. And so that for us was a nice challenge to take on, and then to have that be translated in audio form. But I'd like to take a moment to introduce each person. Like I said, Varissa McMickens Blair, who you'll hear from in the course of this evening. She and I have been working together for a very long time, and she's our chief strategies person. And any projects like this that require sort of a faceted perspectives, we can all count on her to bring that level of experience to a project like this. And she also ran a science museum in New Jersey not too long ago, and so she has that background as well. Paola Nogueras is a photographer who's done a lot of amazing work on behalf of nonprofits and arts organizations in the city, and we've had the good fortune of working with her, really for over 10 years, documenting events and such. And she'll explain later why this project was really special to her. I'm really looking forward to having her share that. Carolina Gomez, our graphic designer. I think first and foremost, obviously when you think of the signs, you will see Paola and Carolina's work made visible by the fact that they are shockingly beautiful, pieces of art that you encounter. And Carolina, somebody who I met when I was at Mural Arts Philadelphia for a few years. And, knowing that she is an Olney resident, Olney high school product, just very talented visual artist. I'm always happy to be able to invite her to any projects we do that require her skill set. So you'll get to hear from her in a little bit as well. And then finally, June Lopez. June came to become part of our Olney Culture Lab family a few years ago through some other mutual artist colleagues who we had invited to do some work in Olney, which unfortunately had coincided with the pandemic. They were going to do some, live in-person activities, but because of the pandemic, the project was pivoted to audio storytelling through podcasting. And then June was brought into the mix, given his extensive background as a sound designer, but he's also traveled the world as a DJ and produced a lot of amazing artists, many of them from Philadelphia. And so it's been a pleasure and honor to work with this scientist of sound. So we'll definitely get to hear a little bit of June's work as well. So that his work connects more with the web component of this project. So in addition to the actual signs that you encounter, there is a far more also in-depth aspect of this, which is what you find online, which includes interviews and ambient sounds, as well as additional photos that could not be added to the sign itself. So that was the team. It also was super intentional and really critical that actually Paola, June, and Carolina, excuse me, they're all fluent Spanish speakers. And that was extremely helpful as we endeavored to feature a Spanish speaker. So to go from there. So yeah, Julie came to us with this concept, People of the Park. And the concept isn't a new one to us because prior to this particular project, about 4 years ago, I had the honor of interviewing maybe six or seven people for oral history collection with respect to these individuals' relationships to Tacony Creek Park and the watershed. So we've already have a history in mining the stories, if you will, of people who are passionate about the park. But what was really critical for us in this particular project was to make sure and ensure that we were sharing stories by a diverse group of people that represented the unique demographics of the neighborhood that the park runs through. And so now the park itself obviously is very long, but we chose to focus on the Olney section of the park in this particular phase of the project. And so in collecting different names and for possible inclusion in this project, we definitely had some names that were recommended by TTF themselves. And out of that, we were able to interview Maria Vasquez, and who's a staunch park advocate and volunteer who lives right across the street from the Tabor Gateway. And then we have Thomas and Savannah McHale, who actually I had the opportunity to interview for that initial oral history piece, and their interview was so rich because of their family history, living right on Tabor in one of those old historical homes that used to be a part of the I forget what that's called now. Anyway, there was an old factory there, and maybe later, Thomas, you can remind me what it was called. But anyway, those two, thankfully, those two. Well, in the case of Savannah and McHale, the entity of the McHales, we're definitely I would say fairly, it came to us fairly easy since they were provided to us through our initial Whitaker Mill. Thank you, Thomas. Whitaker Mill. But then, we had it in our minds, okay, all right, well, we have, somebody who's a native Spanish speaker, Thomas and Savannah, who have Thomas's background is, the story is amazing. If you listen to the web content, his family's from Ireland, and so that has a really rich connection to the park. But we were like, okay, who else can we represent the community? And so that point we had to kind of brainstorm, put out some feelers, reach out to different organizations that we are friends with to maybe help us. We cast our nets in different areas. I worked with somebody in the Korean Cultural Foundation who generously translated an ad for us and put it in a Korean newspaper, for instance. Although we didn't really get any bites from that, that's sort of like where we were kind of exploring. I reached out to the Cambodian Association, and actually from there, one of the people who works for them said, "Why don't you talk to my husband?" And he's like a lifelong Olney resident, and he took up jogging during the pandemic, and we were like, oh, okay, and it turned out to be a great match, and Siri Chow, as you'll learn, he has an amazing passion for his own cultural cuisine, in preserving that, and his interviews share that as well. And then lastly, we wanted to feature somebody maybe from the Caribbean community, and I reached out to a mutual colleague, a woman who's active in the Haitian American community. And again, it was sort of funny because she was like, "Oh, I have somebody you should talk to," and I said, "Oh, great!" And it turned out to be her daughter, who they live in Elkins Park, but so they have more of a connection to the Tookany side of things. But during the pandemic, her daughter was training for a triathlon, and so took many bicycle rides during her training, all the way through the park down to past Roosevelt Boulevard and back. So I just thought that was really funny that we reached out to a few organizations or individuals that we knew, and then immediately they were like, they had a person sitting right next to them in their family who had a story to share. We had a couple other options, people we talked to who for one reason or another didn't materialize, but with those 4 examples we were able to tell a really rich story and portray a wide cross section of the community that we had hoped to. I don't know if the word is ironic, but the most interesting thing about most of the people that we were able to feature is they skew towards sort of the younger demographic, which I think was really exciting to think of that that aspect, that there are people that's of the younger generation, younger than 40, let's say, who are interested in the park. So it bodes well for the future of the watershed and for hopefully growing, the desire to continue to preserve and enhance the space. So I'm going to ask Jamie Lee to queue up. Let's queue up series sign. So I'm imagining there are some people in the audience who haven't seen the signs. So can queue up series sign, and I'll tell you a little bit about him. So, like I said, Siri, his family is originally from Cambodia. They left as refugees due to the genocide that had occurred there, and upon settling in Philadelphia, over time, he eventually has become a passionate advocate for the cooking traditions of his culture. Hence the picture of him holding the, I guess, the spatula or whatever that's called. And this sign is located near the Crescentville, Cheltenham Gateway down the hill, for those of you who know the park that way. But next we can queue up Dr. Rhoda. She is just a powerhouse of an individual, PhD in, I think, some area of medical research, but also a dancer and artist. And as you'll find out if you visit her webpage, we call her a 5-tool superstar. Yep, there you go, 5-tool human being. Paola, would you like to talk a little bit about your photo shoot with her? Was she the first one that you had a chance to work with when it came to a photo session?
She was the first person that I photographed during the project. And I think at that stage, I was still trying to figure out kind of what we were looking for and what kind of imagery we wanted to present and what Carolina then could work with. And Dr. Rowe was great because she kind of gave me the confidence to move forward with the project. She was super generous with her time. She climbed trees, like she's in a tree there, but she climbed other trees. She got into the water. She stuck her feet in the water and splashed. I mean, she was incredibly adventurous during the shoot. And then she also did these yoga poses for me. So it was an incredible experience to spend that time with her and feel like, oh, because I think at that point I was still trying to figure out, well, what am I looking for with this project? And it wasn't just about a beauty shot for Dr. Rowe. It was really a way to showcase the park and show the connection between the subject and the park and why that park is important to them.
Yeah, and you could tell, as you could tell by some of these pictures, Dr. Rowe, as we affectionately call her, loves the camera and loves the light.
I wanted to add, though, I think it's really important to say that because this was the first set of photos that was taken, we didn't know what to expect, right? And Dr. Rowe kind of set the tone for what we realized was going to be a really dynamic experience, because she sort of went into the space and was like willing to do all of the poses, like try whatever, but she was so natural in it, right? And we saw that in the first set of pictures while would have, this. Okay, so what I want to say too is that this is a project born in the midst of the pandemic. Like so other creative experiences that we've been having over the last few years, this thing happened and the idea came to be in the middle of the pandemic. So we didn't know what to expect. We were like saying, hey, go to the park and take pictures, and talk about your experience and why you love the park and how you interact with it. And we all looked at these pictures when Paola shared them with us on one of our Zoom meetings. We're all going, wait, go back to that picture again, show that again, wait a minute. It was this like overwhelming feeling of, oh my gosh, we are on to something. This is going to be amazing. And every set of pictures from there was different. Every person's interaction with the park was different. Every person's look on their face, way they held their body, all of those things were different, but it was all so amazing and beautiful. And that, I think, laid the foundation for not only being able to enjoy all these amazing photos, but it laid the foundation for then sort of the next phase of being able to think about the possibilities for design, which again, we didn't know what we were going to do. We just had this open opportunity to be as creative as we could be, and then realizing that, if somebody said, nope, that's too far, you've gone too far creatively, we could pull it back. But it wouldn't have been possible without all these amazing photos that Paola took.
Thank you.
So just so everybody knows, that's Varissa McMickens Blair that just spoke. And we're going to move on to, let's see, Maria's page, just to show people the sign, to see what that looks like. And then we'll share Thomas and Savannah's as well. And with Maria's, what's unique about it is we got to quote her in Spanish and then translate it into English. And she, for those of you who are familiar with the park, she's sitting what now has been dubbed the Rainbow Bench, a piece of public art created from artist who was in residence from Seattle, and from some invasive vines that she discovered in the park, but she repurposed for the sake of this bench. I had before it was more lovingly dubbed the Rainbow Bench, I had used to refer to as the Game of Thrones, but that idea probably wasn't gonna fly that very long. So yeah, this is Maria Vasquez's, and if we could go to the Thomas and Savannah's now, that would be great. So you'll notice of the 4 images, 4 signs, there's a couple variations of it. This one's a bit more like, a photo with a sort of a cropped out an image like series. But then with Maria's and for Dr. Rose, it's a little bit more surreal. It's got the collage of flowers and plants and such that in fact were images that Paola had captured in the park and Carolina repurposed. But Carolina, I was wondering if you can join and kind of speak to that a little bit. I don't quite recollect how we arrived at both of those kind of iterations, if you will.
I don't know. I think one of the main things was we kind of let the photos speak and tell us which way to go. I think the poses for some of them kind of told us how we wanted to make the signs look like. I know that for the McHales, we definitely wanted to include the fact that Savannah really loves photographing the park. Like that is something that she really loves, and she does a lot and has a lot of photos of that. So we wanted to highlight that too. But we definitely wanted to include both of them because they are both part of the park. So I think it depended on what the subjects kind of were into and how they use the park. So yes, I think, and obviously we just wanted to use as many of the photos that Paola took because they were amazing. So the more we could put in there, the better.
Yeah, and we did that. We definitely were like, all right, we got way too many awesome photos. So that's why the web pieces was extremely important. Yeah, I remember we had asked Savannah, and Savannah, I'm sure you'll remember us asking you for some images of photos, and you sent us a bunch of really wonderful images of birds and such. And we attempted to, I think, do something similar to the birds as we did with the flowers, but it just was a little too overwhelming. Too many animal characters popping in and out, and we were like, no, we got to dial that back a little bit. So,
Yeah. I
I
do
think that's,
remember those conversations though.
Mhm.
I
yeah,
mean, I remember like in our meetings, I think at first we felt like, well, maybe we just need to stick with one thing. But the more options that Carolina began to provide, we were like, well, wait a minute, maybe we don't. Hold on. That's kind of nice too. Like, so we were able to really think of the variety of different possibilities, and that, you know, the other design elements could tie the signs together so that they didn't all have to be the same in terms of how the images were used. It just had to be some of the other elements. It's why the name of the project is really prominent the way that it is. And I mean, every detail of this is really thought through by the entire team. We really did work like, you know, a very, like an amazing collective body with everybody's ideas being, you know, thought through and accepted. And this particular set of photos and the way that the photo of Savannah is superimposed was like, oh, that's the one. We knew. I think as soon as we saw this particular image pulled together this way, it was like, oh yeah, that's it, right? Of all the things that we saw, the way that the design was sort of coming together. Because again, Carolina gave us lots of options to think about what could this be? What could that be? What could it look like? So that was really, you know, to me, that's one of my favorite parts of the project, that we just had this collective energy of being like, let's be open to that. Maybe we don't have to have one way that they all look, right? That it opened us up.
Yeah, and I also think definitely letting the photos speak to us, like what they want it to be. I feel like that was the main part of it.
yeah. I also remember the if you all realize each sign has its own color scheme. I think there was a moment where we were like, couldn't we customize each sign to have a complement, the colors complement maybe the image, or and then once Carolina then provided the palette of possible colors, it just completely blew open the possibilities for how each sign could look. I'm gonna share. Let me see if I can find it. There are a few early iterations, and I just for the sake of you know, sharing with the audience. Just some of the early iterations of what we were thinking about. Like, so it was pretty close. Like there were some aspects to what ultimately stayed, but and these are like not, they're like found images of people in from the web. But yeah, no, this is some kind of early iterations that Carolina had mocked up. Yeah, you know, just kind of putting some ideas out there. And you know, I think we had gotten to a place where it was like, that's too much like a billboard sign thing, and we were trying to get beyond that a little bit. This is when the project was just, all we knew was like we had a name of a project and we wanted a person in it. But there's one thing here that started to like, oh, interesting. So obviously you could see like we kept some of that.
The one.
Yeah.
That's the one that
Carolina,
made
what
us
was
all
the,
go,
yeah, what was the background? What was just the map of? We're in.
I think this one was actually, I got a map from the park, if I am not mistaken. Like yeah, I made this one with the map of the park.
Yeah.
So yeah.
yeah, that was that meeting where we're like, wait, oh, and then it was, do we have to do that with every one of them? Maybe not. Is that possible, Carolina? Could we do that? Yeah, let me show you. I'm sure we could try that.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
I mean, but looking back on it now, it's like, oh yeah, you know, we had some of the basic structure there. and then it was just a matter of, all right, let's take some pictures and see what goes in there. And that's how it started to really crystallize.
Ambrose, am I
Yeah.
muted? I just
No, we can
wanna-
hear
oh,
you.
Good, yay. It's so interesting to hear like the magic that happened behind the scenes. And like I said, we couldn't have done this. We don't have these things that you guys have. But it's so interesting to see all the different, and I think that a project like this really shows the level of trust that we have with working with Ambrose and the Olney Culture Lab. Because we were pretty, vague, but you guys understood. And I think based on sort of the relationship and all the other work that we've done, sort of understood what we wanted to do. It's really interesting to see those different versions and how you worked through all that. Because when you put up the one that you said sort of I looked at that vision, that image that you said looked like a billboard, and I thought that looks like a billboard. And you knew, and that isn't what we wanted. We wanted something that was so much more about people and didn't sort of look like an ad. It's an ad, but in a much different kind of way. So it's really fun to see all the different ways that all the different sort of ways that you looked at this and how the amazing way that it ended up.
You remind me of how in the very beginning, what's really kind of fun to be in the position that I'm in and Varissa and is that when we recruit a team, we kind of also function as referees, if you will. And I remember saying to everybody, we met, every couple of weeks in the very beginning, and it was just spitballing and trying to figure out what this project could be. And I had to kind of constantly remind everybody, is like, this will all change the minute Paola does that first photo shoot. And then once we actually have something tangible in front of us, like we could brainstorm and like come up with any number of ideas that were strictly words on a piece of paper. But I said, look, this is all going to change. You know that, right? Like the minute we see the images that we have in front of us, it'll be like, oh, like the other light bulbs will go off. And that's kind of like how it kind of keeps going. But I think that's the role that we've played as an organization in general, is like, just kind of setting the parameters, building the sandbox, inviting the people, the artists, the creatives to join in, knowing that we're kind of bringing in people with certain skill sets and also just personalities. And we like working with nice people. Let's just put it that way. And, just helping us share the story, because all of the work that we do has some basis in storytelling. Speaking of which, this event is probably going to go over time a little bit, so I definitely want to like loop in June and have him. Well, let's share a little something before we have him talk. So Jamie Lee, if you can go to Dr. Rhoda's track with,
and we're not going to get shut down, right?
as long as you guys have
No, we're good.
This just happened to me in the middle of so many conversations. I'm like, oh my God.
as long as you have a subscription, I think you're all right.
Yeah, the 1 hour ones are like, boop, done, gone.
We could play the track where Dr. Rhoda is talking about her relationship with the park, but then there's also, so with each person we interviewed them, we transcribed it, took out the chunks that were the most meaningful, and then sliced and diced them with June. June could talk about like all the micro editing that he does, but then with one particular track on each page, there's additional sounds. So I want to, if you could play Dr. Rose, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna start calling June the audio scalpel.
I'm afraid I am.
My current relationship with Tacony Creek Park is a safe haven to sort of escape from the everyday hustle and bustle of the city. I love how green Philly is. There's just a wealth of places to be sort of in tune with nature, to be able to hear the birds chirping, to be able to hear water running, to look around and be amongst the trees on a trail, just tucked away off of a main street even. So that access to me provides truly a safe haven to be able to decompress and ground myself whenever, wherever, because the park is so expansive as well.
It's Friday, and that's dance music.
Well, thank you for
So
queuing that up,
June, yeah,
Ambrose.
all right. So I picked that one because, because it was the most like beat heavy, and it probably harkens back to a little bit your days DJing and house music and stuff. But yeah, tell us about your process, like from the getting the recordings and manipulating them, and
Well, first of all, that composition you heard there is actually one of my own. So what I actually did was I stripped it down, some of my unreleased projects. So when I'm actually working on these projects, I'm taking myself there, as well as what I want to convey to the listeners too as well. So it's an interesting process because I'm kind of like jack of all trades. So I listen to sound, all types of sound, not necessarily just music. I look at it as textures, and allow every portion of the sound to tell the story, as I perceive it or how I interpret it. Yeah.
didn't you say that there was something in her interview that maybe because of her dance background or something that made you go, oh, I think she's gonna, it'll be really great to put a groove underneath of it.
During the editing process, because of course I edit 4 of our interviewees, I had to, aside from editing and micro editing, I had to put the story together and then listen to it one more time and then compose. So when she said certain things, I put sound around it. Not necessarily sound that would get in the way of the interview, but just more or less to complement what they were saying. In her case, because she was into house music and to dancing, I wanted to relay that. So I chose one of my tracks to convey that message.
Yeah, but when she started saying, the chirping of the birds, suddenly the bird sound was more, it was more in front, wasn't over her, but it was oh, wait, that's right, birds. And then when she said water, suddenly I noticed I can hear the water. So there is this way of backing up the words with the sound, so that, you close your eyes, feel like you're there. And then you have that with the photos, again, we can see what's there around her while she's, in the space. And yeah, I think it just brings it to life. There's something about sound tracking and composing to bring the words in, to life for people.
Correct.
Yeah, so one thing that was a new frontier for us is with Maria, as I mentioned earlier. Her interview was done in Spanish, and Paola was able to step up and assist within that. Paola and I were in the room together with Maria when we talked to her, and then for us, the process of not only recording her, but then translating it into English, and then Varissa overdubbed it, and then June figuring out ways to play with the English overdub sitting on top of Maria. That certainly was a process for us, and we were really happy to go through that, to experience it, because it's something we would like to continue to do more, which is feature people in our neighborhood who for which English is a second language. So it was a great learning opportunity for us too. Like I said, a pilot within a pilot. And so if you go to Maria's page online, there's a tab, there's two, there's English, and then there's the Spanish, and you could see the Spanish, translated Spanish, and then the interviews that are in Spanish. So that was a great opportunity for us. I don't know, at this point, are there any other recollections or challenges that we encountered that might not be coming to mind? Or at this point, for our audience, is there any questions about this? We also, as you could see from the top, this logo-ish thing that is on a page that you see, we were definitely interested in creating something, a clear visual brand, if you will, for the project, and went through various iterations of this as well. But obviously we settled on this, and then it is replicated in all the signs, but just strictly in solid color. And shout out to Chris Esch at the TTF's webmaster for giving us a little more leeway, because we designed the web piece in our website, and there was an issue of then it transitioning over to the tcpkeepers.org site, and there's some limitations that thankfully were easily dismantled in order to accommodate the overall layout and look of what we had conceptualized. So yeah, no, I think at this point we're open to taking any questions.
Yeah.
It's been an enjoyable process for us, and I speak for everybody in that regard.
I did want to say though that when there's the question that was put forth about challenges, and like so many other things with many other organizations during this time frame, this project born during the pandemic, so we couldn't have our meetings in person. We couldn't do some of the normal things we would have done in terms of planning. And that could have been a really difficult challenge, but we took the time to think collectively, and including the team from TTF. We moments of just conversation about what could we do, even from the start, this idea of like, how do we find these other voices using social media, right? Like, hey, you got a story, you wanna, would you like to tell your story of being involved with the park? Like those are things that we were able to do that we might not have done, because we might have just said, oh, let me go and have a meeting or grab coffee with so and so, and we'll just have them do it. But it really pushed us to be creative and to some degree quite bold in our approach to figuring out what this could be, right? So I think that the challenge of the pandemic and proximity and the potential for illness and all these other things, didn't stop us. In fact, it spurred us on to be able to think and work collectively and creatively in ways that, persist now, and even though we're sort of thankfully coming out of all of that, we learned a lot.
So I saw a question in the chat about what are we doing next? What's the next? So, I mean, I feel like we almost immediately, once we saw how amazing these were, started figuring out how we could do more. And these are because it actually happened, like you guys did it. And these were all above the boulevard. And we're, the people who use the park are like our family. I always worry that I'm not paying attention to both my children equally. And we worry about, we paying more attention to Olney than we are to Feltonville and Juniata Park. And the park is so linear, it makes it especially hard. So, we want to make sure that we can do signs on the below the boulevard all the way to Juniata Park. And Ambrose and I have started talking about that. I don't know why we would work with any other team. They're different neighborhoods, but I think we could definitely do that. So I'm curious, so I'm going to stop talking. I'm curious to hear what things people would think about sort of adding or doing differently if we went ahead, if we were able to go ahead and do that.
And you're speaking to everybody, not just us.
I'm speaking to, yes, I'm speaking to
the whole-
everyone, the
everybody
universe.
in the
Yeah, I saw Mama Carla Wiley's question, and yeah, just more people, more colors, more language translations. Now that we know, at least sort of, we've had the experience of figuring out what methodology we think works best for that. And hey, we recorded through moments of, like, I was recording in my house and there were streets, like, people were doing construction. We got through all of that. So I think more people, more languages represented, more cultures, more.
Yeah, I think for us, the opportunity to continue to work on this and expand to those neighborhoods would be really exciting. And Julie, believe me, we don't take this type of thing lightly, because our mission is very Olney centric, but because of the richness of this project and our ongoing fan club with TTF, it makes total sense to have this expand into like Feltonville and Juniata Park and such. We've been at, in all candor, we've been asked to do things outside of the neighborhood, and it doesn't always make sense to us, but like this totally makes sense.
Right. I mean, we say to funders and other organizations, we wish there was a Feltonville and Juniata Park Culture Lab, because it makes our work so easy, and so the partnership is so great. And those communities don't, Feltonville particularly doesn't have a lot of, that's sort of our toughest community with the fewest community organizations, the hardest to really connect with people. I think Juniata Park is, we did a big project there, the River Alive Learning Trail, with some other incredible partners. That was Victoria Prizzi at Habitat and some other artists. And it was a very different kind of project. But it was very rich like this too. So we just need to, that's at either end. And the community folks there are, everyone has the same feelings in terms of how they feel about the park and what an important asset it is. And, they live across the street from it. It's their front yard, right, McHale's, or their backyard.
So anyway, the creative team, we are poised and in game once we can find the additional support, which I know you are really great at getting, Julie. So thank you for inviting us on this. It was, like I said, it was a real milestone project for us, and definitely, the ribbon cutting a couple weekends ago was, you could feel the love of the people who are there, and just how much they have embraced this. So we're really grateful.
Thank you so much, everyone. I just want to do a quick shout out to Emily and Jamie Lee. Jamie Lee really pulled this together with Ambrose. And every time we do one of these, we do a better job, even though we always forget to say record. So thank you, Varissa. That's all my fault. I had written these things down and then I immediately forgot about them. Anything else that other people want to add? Okay.
Just stay tuned for more good times at Tacony Creek Park.
Definitely. We just I just wanted to say this. We've had tried to have a commitment to providing information and resources in different languages, and having staff that speaks Spanish. And we are now doing, there's a park map that's in English and Spanish. And we just got we got some funding and we got those translated into Haitian Creole,
Mandarin and Vietnamese, I think.
Mandarin and Vietnamese, exactly. So we'll be making those available to people, and then we'll move on. It's hard to, there's so many languages. And the neighborhoods keep changing. So we're trying to prioritize, but I always want to hear about other ones. But we do have funding, we have that one map and brochure that's really useful, that people really like, that's kind of cute. So it makes sense to put it into different languages. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Actually, before we say goodnight, I do want to give a plug. We just got funding to do the Revival Walk in April as part of Philly Celebrates Jazz. So on Saturday, April 22nd, 10 o'clock, Mama Carla will be leading a walk with a couple of to be identified jazz artists, so that we can celebrate jazz in Philadelphia in April. And so we just got that finalized in the last couple of days. So we have that to look forward to.
That's amazing. We're doing a big event on April 22nd at Whitaker, where the big birds are. The big murals are. We're doing something called Birds of a Feather. That's a big celebration and a lot of artists. Awesome.
That's awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Julie, for having
Go eat
us.
dinner.
Yep. See you around.
Bye-bye.
All right.